Hello, and welcome to the Voices United Conference online. My name is Max Nolan, and I have the distinct honor of presenting our next session entitled Connecting Through Technology, Tools and Resources for Engaging Music Lessons. Our presenter is
Alice Boyars.
Alice teaches general music at Keene Elementary and directs the chapel choir at St. Matthew's UMC. In her own words, she is by no means a tech expert, so if she can use these tools, so can you. Alice holds a Master in Teaching from Christopher Newport University. She was honored to be a VMEA presenter and a TIME Music and Technology Leadership Academy Scholarship recipient in 2019. In her free time, she enjoys making silly videos for her students. I think we're all doing that these days. Again, we are so lucky and thankful to have Alice Boyars here to present today. We hope you enjoy.
My name is Alice Boyars, and today I will be presenting on using Google technology to make engaging lessons for your music classroom. Please make sure to reference the handout, as I have accumulated a lot of resources which will hopefully save you time. First and foremost, you are irreplaceable. Your connection with your students and the love of the music that you share with them is invaluable. Nothing will ever change that. This is obviously not the ideal teaching scenario. But with the given situation, how can we use the dynamic to our students' benefit? Today we're going to be talking about a couple of things. First, how are we using technology to teach? And then how to save you time and make things that engage your students. The SAMR model demonstrates how technology is used to enhance teaching. For example, by using a virtual whiteboard, I'm simply replacing an old tool for a new technological one. And this would only be substitution. If we truly want to engage our students, we need to give them opportunities to create, utilizing technology in ways we wouldn't normally have the chance to explore. And this isn't to say that something in the range of the SAMR model can't be used. It's just a reminder to check, okay, how am I using this technology to help my students learn? You might have seen a wave of something called a virtual classroom. And the question is either, what does it do? Or, so I made one, now what? Virtual classrooms on their own can be visually stimulating and engaging as students explore a virtual room. These kind of are similar to games that they'd normally play online, so they might be a little bit more engaged. However, it's not providing enough assessment for you to understand what they're clicking on and what they're learning. There comes a virtual escape room. The extension of this idea is to make a virtual escape room, giving students a chance to problem solve and engage with each other. My students loved these in both the asynchronous and synchronous setting. With an asynchronous escape room, you're going to want to give them some kind of time limit to build back in that competitive spirit when they're working on something on their own. To make sure that you don't crush their confidence too early, I recommend sequential questions. And by increasing the difficulty, they won't give up before they've finished the assessment. In a synchronous setting, you can use the competitive spirit of either having the students compete against you, or you can have them compete class by class. Therefore saying, oh, Wednesday's class completed this in 30 minutes. Can you? You can have the students problem solve together by giving them hints, having them talk about it in the chat on whatever platform you're using, or raising their hands and verbally speaking. And this way, even if you're not able to directly see and work with the students, they can work together. To create an escape room, you're going to want to start with a title slide. In this slide, I usually introduce the premise for the challenge that the students will try to accomplish in this lesson. To make it more creative, I try to give each challenge a theme. This one is spy themed. For this escape room, I'm using a slide template, but I could also make a new slide and add some kind of background. So if it's spy headquarters, and find something dramatic looking. Just for fun, I add a tiny YouTube video in the corner by inserting a video and putting in some thematic music. For in this case, it was the Incredibles theme. Once I've added the video, I will make sure that it autoplays when presenting. So when I share my Google Slides in presentation mode, When they flip to this slide, their theme music will automatically start to enhance their experience. I'll make the video as tiny as it can go and put it in the corner. At the bottom, it will include a link to their first Google form. To create the assessment portion, you want to label it. I usually name it rooms 1 through whatever the number of assessments I intend on giving. I'll provide the descriptions of how I expect them to answer each question in whatever language I think is best for the grade. To make a sequential assessment, you'll need to make individual required sections. And that's just a fancy way of saying you'll go to the double bars at the bottom and hit Add Section. And each section will become required, and you'll want to hit Go to Section based on answer. So if I know that option 1 is correct, I can have it say continue to next section. Otherwise, I'm going to have it stay on section 1 so the kids can have another shot at realizing, oh, this question is incorrect and I need another try at it. What that will look like for your students is that if I click on option 2, I'm right back at the same question. Option 1 means I get to move on. This particular example is designed for my 4th graders who are learning and reviewing some musical symbols. At the very bottom, once they've gotten through all of the questions, you're going to want to include a link to the next quote room. So you'll make sure that this link is shareable, and it will be a lot easier to click on when they are looking at the presented version. Once they've clicked on the link, a new, sillier concept as to why they're completing their mission, and they'll again click on the next Google form. Once you've made the first one, I recommend that you make a copy, and that way you are able to follow the same format without having to make all the different sections, and you just switch which answers are the, quote, correct answer. In my experience, I usually have about 3 rooms ending with some sort of reward room where they're able to click on the hyperlinks to get silly videos that the kids would normally earn in class as a reward over a long period of time. Since attention spans are shorter on the internet, this way they have just taken about 3 assessments and they haven't realized it. My students' favorite premise for their escape room was definitely the haunted house. Once I had made the template of a spooky looking house, I could use this same idea over and over again, asking different questions, such as adding in bar lines or questions about music theory or music history. All of the frames in the house were different composers, and that way we could talk about music history in a way that seemed more engaging to them. I used this in a synchronous setting where we solved the problem together, but to make your escape rooms look the most professional, the best way to send it out to your students is either to publish it to the web, or when you go into the shareable URL, you look for the word edit, and then you change that to present. And when I reload the page, it looks a lot more fun for the students. When you're finished with your escape room, or you can organize it from the very beginning, make sure you put all of the items in one folder. This way you don't accidentally link the wrong slide to the wrong form if you make multiple escape rooms. The thing that takes the longest is the template. So once you find one that you like, or you make one that you're really proud of, don't feel the need to reinvent the wheel. All of the games they play online kind of follow the same premise. Just change the questions or the challenge to keep it interesting. Now I know what you're thinking. This takes time that I don't have. So let me introduce a few time-saving techniques that I use to make sure I'm not spending too much time on my computer every day. The first time-saving technique that I use are Google Chrome extensions. These are things added to your browser that can do things directly onto web pages. The disclaimer is because it's free, they do take your information. So make sure that whatever extension you're using, you're comfortable sharing the information that you're looking at on the page. One that my students really love is Bitmoji. Once you've installed the Chrome extension, it will appear as an icon at the top of your screen. I simply click on the icon and drag a little caricature of myself into any slide. I can change the vector just like I would any PNG or image. One of my favorites is Flat for Education. And what that means is I can work on small pieces of music and insert them directly into the slides. And this one isn't education related, but I often use uBlock Origin, which is simply, I don't really want to see ads when I'm on the computer this much. Because I use so many extensions, I use something called Extensify, so I can see all the ones that I'm not even able to see on the screen. I'm currently using the extension Screencastify to record my screen so that you're able to see what I see. Another thing to save a lot of time is using slide templates. For this presentation, I used a template by SlidesGo. These are free slides for teachers. A lot of them have engaging colors, and they only ask that you attribute the company that made the materials and made the images. But if I want to add images to a video or something and I don't want to provide attribution, I can go to a website called Pixabay and search for anything I want. I can particularly look for images, photos, or vectors. And once I search, I can check to make sure that it is in with the Creative Commons. So this is saying that it's free for commercial use. I don't even have to say who made it because they said I had the license to use it without attribution. So you can feel free to use anything with this kind of license on videos or things for your school that you give out. Another time-saving technique is keyboard shortcuts. And what that means, instead of in the menu having to figure out what does what, I go directly to my keyboard and I click on a series of buttons in an order to make a task. The one that I use the most, because I tend to close tabs and then immediately need them again, is reopening the tab I just closed. You hit Shift, Control, or Command on a Mac, and then T. And you can hit it as many times to open whatever tabs you have most recently closed. Another one would be to add a link. You highlight either the image or the text that you want to hyperlink and hit Control or Command K. When making an escape room or a digital classroom, the one I use most is when I'm trying to make things look 3D, I want something to be in front of something else. So I highlight the image and I hit Shift, Control or Command, and either to the front or to the back. If I want something to be a background, I'm going to send it to the back of the screen with the down arrow. And if I want it to be the highlight, it goes to the very front. I'll be providing a list of my favorite top 10 keyboard shortcuts and also the link to Google's complete list of shortcuts on the handout. You've likely seen a lot of things and spent a lot of money on Teachers Pay Teachers, where you can buy beautifully made worksheets that are actually not that difficult to make. They all have 3 things in common. You start with a blank slide, change the background, insert a shape, and then you'll go to border weight, make it thick, make the color of the box white, and then all Teachers Pay Teachers have a pretty title in which you go into the fonts, pick one you like, and then make it something fun. They all have some kind of fun clip art, which isn't that difficult to add either. You go to Insert, Image, and then search the web. And when you search directly in Google Slides, it picks things that are in fair use copyright, which means that you can use it for educational purposes. I pick one I like, it's inserted, and I put it in the corner. As soon as I add the rest of the content, which could be some quarter note worksheets, and if I want it to have a clear background, I'll search for something that says PNG, which means it doesn't have its own background and I'll be able to have it on any colored background. I can drag it straight in and it's a part of my presentation. And in about 30 seconds, I've made an okay template of something from Teachers Pay Teachers. Once you've made your first creation, you can use it as a template for your others. You can change the color of the background or add a different pattern. If I want it to be something fancier, I go to Choose Image, Google Image Search, and let's say I want polka dots. If you're not getting the image that you want, make sure you're changing your search terms. If I didn't type background, I might not get something that would work. So I'll pick the one I like, hit done, and it will apply. To make a pretty looking title, make sure it's large enough to see. You'll go to the options, center it right in the middle. And what I love about Google Slides is it'll show you just where the middle is. So this way you have an official looking template to make any kind of rhythm flashcards or handout that you would like. To use this template later, you go to File, Make a Copy. You can either do the entire presentation or selected slides, and then call it whatever new worksheet you would like to. And this way you don't have to keep remaking what you already started up. And then I've used the same template for something that looks different enough for my kids not to notice. And I didn't need to spend any money on it. If you want to make it printable, I recommend using a background without a lot of color. To make a printable worksheet or decoration, you're going to need to change the paper size. Currently, it's meant to look nice on a screen, which doesn't mean it will look nice to print. You'll go to File, Page Setup, and instead of widescreen, you're going to go to Custom. If you want to look at the paper, as my kids call hot dog style, you'll go to 8.5 by 11. If you want to look at it horizontally, you'll switch the sides. You're going to get rid of all the options, and then you can add the borders like before, where you change the background, or you can insert, shape, and simply add a border. If you're trying to save money while printing, you can make it black and white. To make a worksheet, it still follows the same rules as All Teachers Pay Teachers. It has a pretty title and some clip art. So you'll follow the same steps from before, where you add a text box, make large enough font, find a pretty font, and make sure it's centered. To make a digital worksheet that you can also use online, so you don't have to do the same work twice, you can make digital worksheets in this orientation as well. The students will be editing it on their own, so it won't need to fill up the screen completely and look nice in that widescreen view. One of the tricks to making it interactive is that they're able to move around materials. To make a drag and drop item, you're going to want to make a new empty slide, and that's when you use a keyboard shortcut like Control M to make a new empty slide. I'll clear it and I'll add what I want. Probably want it to be a little bit smaller and make it the size that I like. And once it's perfect, I'll duplicate it by again using a keyboard shortcut, which this one is Command D for duplicate. I make as many as I want. I hold down my mouse and highlight all of them, or I can hit Command A to highlight whatever's on the screen. I'll right click, and then I want to align horizontally, which I usually do on the left, and align vertically in the middle. And now I have all of those in what looks like one. I'll hit Command C to copy, and I'll put it on my worksheet. And then they'll be able to move them across the screen, answering questions based on the symbol. Here are some examples of rhythm worksheets I made for my third graders. As you can see, they all still have just a border, a pretty title, a couple images. Once I've made one, I can follow the same idea and use it as a template to make a bunch of worksheets, so I can save myself time for later. To leave you with a few choral considerations, think back to the SAMR model. What can we teach, and how do we use technology to do it? Some ideas could be focusing on things that we normally don't get to, like music history or music theory. We could talk about social justice, social emotional learning, or just music and emotion. For example, I usually have a project with my students where we talk about how movies can be significantly affected depending on what kind of music you put in the background. There is other technology outside of Google where you're able to focus on the individual student, such as vocal technique with Flipgrid, or simply using the escape room or other types of Google Forms to assess your students and get to know them a little bit better. You could have them plan a concert and make a project to learn what kind of music that they might want to perform in future years. One of my favorite projects I did with my students last year was their musical identity project. I asked them to create a Google slide about their favorite song. The most important part that we emphasized was, why do we like this song? Are there certain attributes or qualities that we tended to like in a lot of music? And then extending upon that, when we learned about music from all over, how does what we know tend to bias what we like? It was really interesting to see, after a simple example of mine, the kind of work that students were able to express. This is from my 6th grade class. A lot of them preferred to type out their thoughts very extensively. Others preferred to provide more visual examples and give an oral presentation. In this way, they were able to explain what they know, how they know best. I also really enjoyed getting to hear what kind of music that they liked. In the stipulation that it all had to be school appropriate, I now had music that we could use for rhythm activities to know what engaged them. If there's something you'd like to learn or an idea you have for resources, let me know how I can assist you. This is a time out of any where we're here to support one another. There are so many more connections to be made with your students. Just take into account how you are using the technology. Thank you.